The first time I laid eyes on her, I thought she was untouchable. The kind of figure that legends are made of, tall, regal, and impossibly powerful. Queen Veyara of the Jaran Empire had conquered worlds, led armies, and shattered civilizations that dared defy her. Tales of her victories traveled faster than light across the galaxy, and even among the bravest warriors, her name evoked awe and fear. And yet, she was here, standing before me on the observation deck of her flagship, her eyes scanning the stars beyond the reinforced glass. Her armor gleamed in the dim light, etched with runes of victory and protection, yet something in her posture suggested fatigue, a weight I hadn't expected from a queen who had never feared anything. "I was born a warrior," she said softly, almost to herself. The words carried authority, but they weren't loud, nor were they demanding. They were the declaration of a lifetime of triumphs. "I know," I said, trying to sound confident, though my heart raced. I was a human emissary, not a soldier, and certainly not anyone who deserved proximity to a being like her. Yet here I was, assigned to negotiate a fragile truce between her empire and the newly allied human colonies. Veyara's eyes shifted to me, sharp as the edge of her ceremonial blade. "Strength defines me. Power, resolve, victory. All that you humans seem to worship." Her gaze lingered, piercing, almost searching. Then her voice dropped, a whisper that barely left her lips. "Now, I can't even walk." The words hit me harder than any weapon ever could. My mind froze, caught between disbelief and the raw vulnerability in her tone. A queen who had toppled planets' defenses, a warrior who had led legions, now whispered that she could not walk. The Jaran flagship was massive, a moving city of polished alloys and energy conduits. I had been briefed on the political importance of this mission: secure the alliance, ensure peaceful trade, and, if necessary, protect myself from Veyara's legendary wrath. I had expected negotiation, maybe intimidation. I had not expected humanity itself would tremble in front of the truth behind a queen's armor. Veyara gestured toward a reclining chair with a subtle wave of her hand. "Sit," she commanded, though the weariness in her limbs suggested it had taken effort to lift her hand at all. I complied, careful not to appear weak. "The disease came silently," she began, her voice low. "A plague from the void, engineered perhaps by my enemies, perhaps by chance. It does not kill quickly, but it robs the body of its strength, and eventually, it robs the soul." Her confession was not melodramatic. It was matter-of-fact, a soldier recounting wounds to a comrade. And yet, hearing it from a figure who had never known defeat was surreal. I searched her eyes for any trace of fear. There it was, faint but undeniable. A flicker of vulnerability that contradicted every story I had ever heard about her. "I've hidden it from my council, from my armies," she continued. "Weakness cannot be shown. To admit it is to invite rebellion, betrayal, or worse, pity. And pity is worse than death." I swallowed, unsure how to respond. Humans were unaccustomed to leaders who were both omnipotent and mortal, whose faces hid the frailties we all carried. Finally, I spoke. "Your people, they believe in your strength. Maybe they can understand this, too. Maybe they can see your courage in the fight, not just the victories." Veyara's lips twitched, almost like a smile. "Perhaps. But humans, I find, are unafraid of weakness in ways my people are not. You ask questions, you seek truth sometimes, you even offer comfort." It was the first time I felt anything like a connection with her. Despite the grandeur, the armor, the throne that defined her life, she was, in that moment, just a being fighting against her own limitations. The next days were a delicate dance. I accompanied her through council meetings, negotiations, and the daily demands of ruling an empire. Every step she took required effort. Every command came with a visible strain on her body. And yet, she continued to project strength, issuing orders with precision, scanning reports with an unwavering focus. I observed her quietly, learning the subtle signs of fatigue, the way her shoulders slumped after issuing commands, the small tremor in her hands when no one watched, the brief pauses she allowed herself while walking across chambers. The universe may have feared her, but I understood her in a way few ever would. Then came the attack. An enemy fleet had slipped past her patrols, aiming to strike the heart of her empire. The alarms blared, red lights flashing, and sirens piercing the command deck. Veyara's first instinct was to rise, to take the helm herself, to rally her fleet as she had countless times before. I moved to assist, but she stopped me with a gesture, shaking her head. No, human. This is my fight, but you will stay close. If I fall, you must ensure my people survive. Her words were heavy, but her eyes, so determined, so unyielding, spoke of the same unbroken spirit I had seen from the start. Even in weakness, she refused to surrender. The battle was brutal. Ships collided in a storm of energy and metal. Veyara issued orders, her voice commanding, yet there were moments when she had to sit, leaning on the edge of the command chair, unable to stand fully. And yet, she remained the beacon of leadership. The fleet followed her. They trusted her. At one point, a massive explosion rocked the flagship. I rushed to her side as the deck tilted violently. She struggled to maintain balance, and I barely caught her before she fell. For a heartbeat, the Queen, the untouchable, fearless warrior, was utterly human, dependent, vulnerable. Her gaze met mine, and I saw no shame, only a fierce defiance. "Do not let them see me fall," she whispered. "This is my duty, even in weakness." The battle ended not with a decisive strike, but with a stalemate. Her forces held, the enemy retreated, and the flagship limped back to orbit. Veyara's body was exhausted, her usual poise replaced by raw fatigue. She allowed herself to sit fully, her head resting against the chair. I remained by her side, unsure what to say. Words felt inadequate. Then she looked at me and said, softly, almost shyly, "I feared this more than any enemy, human. That weakness would define me, that my people would see the truth and turn away." "You are still their queen," I said gently. "Still the warrior who commands their loyalty. Weakness does not erase everything you've done. It proves your courage in ways victories never could." Her eyes softened, and she exhaled, a quiet relief passing through her. "Perhaps you understand what my people cannot. Perhaps that is enough." For the first time, she allowed herself to lean on someone else, fully, without armor or pretense. And in that moment, I realized that true strength was not in being unbreakable, but in acknowledging the fractures, yet continuing forward. Weeks passed. The plague continued its slow march through her body, but Veyara adapted, learning to delegate more, to accept assistance, and to face her mortality with grace. Our interactions grew deeper, filled with trust, mutual respect, and even quiet camaraderie. One evening, we stood on the observation deck, watching the binary suns set over a distant planet. She placed a hand on the railing, her movements deliberate, her gaze steady. "I was born a warrior," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "And now, I walk differently, but I still walk." I smiled, understanding fully. She had not surrendered, had not yielded to fear. Her courage had shifted, transformed from physical dominance to the strength of spirit. "And that," I said, softly, is more inspiring than any victory. Veyara turned to me, a faint, genuine smile crossing her lips. Perhaps human. Perhaps. The galaxy beyond stretched infinitely, full of danger, wonder, and the unknown. And as I stood beside the queen who feared nothing, yet faced weakness bravely, I realized something profound. Power is measured not by the absence of vulnerability, but by the courage to endure it. She had been a warrior from birth. Now, she was a warrior in ways the universe had never seen before. And that, perhaps, was her greatest victory of all.